to explore the Hebrew roots of your Christian faith? Then grab your Bible and let's get started.
Shabbat Shalom, and welcome to Reconcile the Kingdom, where we're working towards becoming the harmony of the whole word of truth. My name is Patrice Robinson, and I greatly appreciate all of you that are able to join me on the live premiere and those who are able to join me on the replay. All is most definitely appreciated. I appreciate everyone. So, today is the second day of unleavened bread. I did a live premiere yesterday for the first day of unleavened bread. If you missed that, you can go back and then watch it after this live premiere. So we only have 5 days left over for unleavened bread, and then on tomorrow we have the Feast of First Fruits, and so that also start counting up to the Feast of Harvest, the Feast of Pentecost, the Feast of Weeks. And if you follow me on Instagram, I will keep you up to date with all the information and kind of give some education on what all of these feasts, appointed times of Jehovah, is all about. So that's the reason for Instagram itself. But I hope that you come here ready to learn. And I'm hoping that you come here and you are willing and you're open to joining this family. You are willing to join the family who does not mind searching the scriptures. You are joining a family that does not mind challenging what we have been taught by the religious systems. You do not mind joining a family who considers the Bible as a lifetime study. So we are students, lifetime students of the Bible. And you can join this family for free just by hitting that subscribe button below. And not just only hitting that subscribe button, hitting that bell so you be alert when I am live or when I upload any type of small teachings or anything else that I upload here on YouTube. And also when you follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, Spotify, YouTube, podcast, hitting those bell makes you get all the alerts in time, especially when I am going live. So we on all those social medias and probably spreading more as soon as I can. But thank you for all those who are subscribing, who are joining, who are commenting, who are sharing this information. I am greatly appreciated with your support. And that's the way you should support me, not by giving me any money or anything like that. This is the way that I request for you to support me on today. So thank you for supporting me. Now, ensure you have your Bible in front of you. It's important to have your Bible in front of you because without your Bible, you're unable to test what I am bringing before you. So not only have your Bible, but have your pen, have your paper, all the writing utensils that you would need, including the highlighter. And you know why I always say have the highlighter, because we are taking the gospel writers, Matthew, Mark, Luke. That's where we're going to be in today. That's where we've been in for quite a while. Take that synoptic gospels and comparing it and gathering all the information so you can get the information about the whole event, not pieces and chunks, but we look at it as together as a whole. So this is what we're doing. Make sure you are ready. Now, we always start with a recap. So last week, if you missed last week, we discussed the disciples, the 3 disciples who did not taste death. Remember, he said, will not taste death until they see the power and the glory of Jehovah. And we found out that there was Peter, John, and James. And what they seen was the glory of God when they seen Yeshua transfigure right in front of them. Not only they see him transfigure, they witness him speaking to Moses and Elijah. So they were having this conversation. So they witnessed Yeshua having a conversation with them. And this conversation, as we learned in the scriptures, was about his departure and, things that's going to happen in Jerusalem. So they witnessed this as a vision, as we have learned. But if anything stood out to me, was the question that they asked Yeshua as they was coming down for the mountain. And the question they had asked was, doesn't Elijah supposed to come first? Yeshua addressed that immediately. And yes, Elijah come first. Elijah had came and they missed him. So they missed John the baptizer. And this is what the disciples realized, that he was talking about John the baptizer. And what you should know is that this still continues today. In the faith of Judaism, one thing that they still do during the Passover meal, first day of unleavened bread, is they look for Elijah. So they still have that belief, because they missed Elijah. And of course, they missed the Messiah. So that is what stood out to me, because that is something that they still practice on today. Now, let's get your pen and paper. So let me let you know, we are going to be in Matthew 17:14-18. This is for your notes. Mark chapter 9, verses 14-27. And Luke chapter 9, verses 37-43. And one thing I am really enjoying about these teachings, and I could not have put this together the way Jehovah is putting this together. We have since last week been talking about, is it episode 7? I think it's episode 7 where we started talking about his death and resurrection. And we're going to be doing this today. And it just could not be a perfect time then to be doing this teaching at the time of the season that it is. Just want to plug that in. So we're going to start with Matthew chapter 17, verses 14-18. When they came to the crowd, a man came up to Yeshua, falling on his knees before him and saying, Lord, have mercy on my son, because he has seizures and suffers terrible, for he often falls into the fire and often into the water. And I brought him to your disciples, and they could not cure him. And Yeshua answered and said, you unbelieving, perverse generation, how long should I be with you? How long should I put up with you? Bring him here to me. And Yeshua rebuked him, and the demon came out of him, and the boy was healed at once. So this is from Matthew's perspective. Short, simple, and straight to the point. Now we're going to take a look at Mark and see if Mark add in additional information to see the whole picture. And this is Mark chapter 9, verse 14-27. And they came back to the other disciples, and they saw a large crowd around them, and some of the scribes arguing with them. So this is the 3 disciples that was with Yeshua. So they came back with the other disciples. Immediately, when the entire crowd saw him, they were amazed and began running up to greet him. And he answered them, what are you disputing with them? And one person from the crowd answered him, Teacher, I brought you my son because he has a spirit that makes him unable to speak. A little bit more information. And whenever it seizes him, it slams him to the ground, and he foams at the mouth and grits his teeth and becomes stiff. Again, more information. And I told your disciples so that they would cast it out, but they could not do it. And he answered them and he said, "O unbelieving generation, how long should I be with you? How long should I put up with you? And bring him to me." And they brought the boy to him. When he saw him, the spirit immediately threw him into complicate. I can't believe I messed this word up. Threw him into forgive me, I'm sorry. I cannot think right now. Threw him into convulsions, and following to the ground, he began rolling around and foaming at the mouth. And he asked his father, how long has it been happening to him? And he said, from childhood. It has often thrown him both into the fire, into the water to kill him. But if you can do anything, take pity on us and help us. But Yeshua said to him, if you can, all things are possible for the one who believes. So Yeshua was questioning, you mean if I can? All things are possible. Immediately the boy's father cried out and said, I do believe. Help me, help my unbelief. And when Yeshua saw that a crowd was rapidly gathering, he rebuked the unclean spirit and said, saying to it, you mute and deaf spirit, I command you come out of him and do not enter him again. This is additional information. After crying out and throwing him into terrible convulsions, he came out, and the boy became so much like a corpse that most of them said, he is dead. But Yeshua took him by the hand and raised him, and he got up. That is Mark perspective. So we have Matthew and we have Mark perspective. Most definitely, we are going to read Luke and see what Luke had, because Mark really gave us some information. Luke 37 through 43. On the next day, automatically some new information. On the next day, from when they came down from the mountain. When they came down from the mountain, a large crowd met him, and the man from the crowd shouted, saying, Teacher, I beg you to look at my son, because he is my only son. And the spirit seizes him and suddenly screams, and it throws him to comfort. There I go again. I don't know what's going on with me today. Complications. You have to excuse me. Sometimes my brain have trouble, and it throws it to complications with foaming at the mouth, and only with difficulty does it leave him, mauling him as it leaves. And I begged your disciples to cast it out, and they could not. And Yeshua answered and said, you unbelieving and perverse generation, how long shall I be with you and put up with you? Bring your son here. Now, while he was still approaching, the demon slammed him into the ground and threw him to complications. Why is it today? I have never had this much trouble until today, but that's okay. Yeshua is most definitely with me. Complication. But Yeshua rebuked the unclean spirit and healed the boy and gave him back to his father. And they were all amazed at the greatness of Elohim. From the information that is gathered from all three of the writers, we found that it was the next day from the transfiguration that when the disciples had witnessed Yeshua and speaking to Elijah and Moses. After Yeshua and the three disciples came down, remember Luke said it was the next day, there was a crowd of people and the scribes who was arguing about casting out this demon in this young man. He had to be, I'm assuming that he had to be maybe teenage or young adult, because the father pointed out this been happening to him since childhood. Then, of course, this is after Yeshua had a discussion of what I should say, the spirit starts showing out, start throwing himself and falling around the ground, rolling around and foaming at the mouth, having all those complications that was going on. So the disciples uh, that he had left behind, remember he only took 3 up, so there was 9 left, went out of the 12. And of course, we know he had more than 12 disciples, but that's who was left. They had trouble casting the demon out. And the man was most definitely full of doubt, and everyone was full of doubt. It was all this arguing that was going on. And it's because of the unbelief that was causing the problems. Now, the man, he most definitely acknowledged that he believes, but helped my unbelief because there was some doubt that was there. Now, we do find out for the first time in Mark that this spirit was a mute and deaf spirit. So, meaning that he could not speak and he could not hear. And we did not have that information from the other gospels, but we did have in Mark that he couldn't speak. It wasn't until Yeshua spoke and said, mute and deaf spirit, that we figured out that this person was mute and deaf. Now that's important to remember. So let's continue. We are going to further in Matthew 17, 19 through 21, Mark 9 and 28 and 29. Yeah, I just can't believe I had so many trouble with the word convulsions, and I've never had that much trouble. Okay, here we go. Then the disciples came to Yeshua privately and said, why could we not cast it out? And he said to them, because of your meager faith. For truly I say to you, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you shall say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move, and nothing will be impossible. So this is Matthew. So let's look at Mark because Luke doesn't address this at all. Mark says, when he came into the house, again, more information, his disciples began asking him privately, why is it that we could not cast it out? And he said to them, this kind cannot come out by anything except prayer. So the disciples were perplexed because they have cast out demons before. Remember, there were some of them, like he sent out the 12, and they went out into the ministry in the field by two. And he sent them out, and they came back reporting how the demons were responding as they were doing the work of the kingdom. So they were perplexed by why this not happening, because again, many of them have already been out into the field and done this work. So how was great their faith then? What changed to this moment that we're reading about today? So I was kind of wondering what changed. Was it the pressure of the people? Was it the pressure from the scribes, the crowd? Was it too much noise that was going on because all the organ that was going on? Or was it they wasn't maintaining that prayerful life? So those are the questions that were going through my head. What has changed? We're going to continue. Matthew 17, 22, 23, Mark 9, 30 to 32, Luke 9, 43, 45. I'm hoping you guys are writing these scriptures down so that you can go back and take a look at it. So Matthew 17, 22 to 23. For while they were gathered together in Galilee, Yeshua said to them, the Son of Man is going to be handed over to men, and they will kill him, and he will be raised on the third day. And they were deeply grieved. So they were sorry about what they were hearing. The Bible actually said they were deeply grieved. Let's read what Mark says. Mark 9, 30 to 32. And from there they went out and began to go through Galilee. He did not want anyone to know about it, for he was teaching his disciples and telling them, the Son of Man is to be handed over to men, and they will kill him. And when he has been killed, he will rise 3 days later. But they did not understand this statement, and they were afraid to ask him. So let's read Luke's perspective. Luke 9, 43 through 45. And they were all amazed at the greatness of Elohim. But while everyone was astonished at all that he was doing, he said to his disciples, as for you, let these words sink into your ears. For the Son of Man is going to be handed over to men. But they did not understand this statement. It was concealed from them so that they would not comprehend it. And they were afraid to ask him about this statement. So they found it difficult to understand what he was saying. Now, this is not the second time. This is the second time, I should say, because the first time we went over this in lesson 7, but this is the second time he has brought this conversation up, that he would be turned over to man, he would be killed, and he'd be raised on the third day. Now, the first time he brought this up, Peter rebuked him. And Yeshua ended up having to rebuke Peter, because behind the spirit of Peter rebuking him. And you will find this in Mark 8:32 and 33 and Matthew 16:22 to 24. Again, we went over this in episode number 7. So the disciples clearly understand what it means that he's going to be turned over to men, clearly understand what it means that I will be killed. I believe this difficulty to understand is that he's going to rise in 3 days. Were they able to understand the scriptures? How much of the scriptures did they understand? Because we do realize that the disciples was unlearned men. But they knew some of the word. They might not understood everything, but they knew some of the word. So this is the question that I have. Should I say it's a question or something that we should talk about? Because what happened on tomorrow, many of the denominations and non-denominational religious systems will be teaching that he rise from the dead for 3 days. And so we will go through this 3-day sermons that will be happening on tomorrow. But this is not just 3 days. Yeshua is specifically teaching them that he's going to rise, and that these 3 days are not just general 3 days. If you go look in Matthew chapter 12, verse 40, he specifically gave this information. For as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the whale's belly, so shall the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. So many on tomorrow, under the influence of denominations and non-denominational religious systems, will just focus on those 3 days. And this 3-day teaching is how we got Friday to Sunday. But that's not what the Bible said. Taking it in whole account, those 3 days are specific. 3 days and 3 nights. So in the past, it's probably about a year ago, I did a teaching on Passover versus unleavened bread. And I did a count of these days. I'm going to share with you a clip that I did. It might have been 2 years ago. And I'm going to bring it up. And this is the count that I want us to pay attention, because I'm going to do a comparison of the Hebrew roots understanding according to the scriptures versus the Christianity denomination, non-denominational religious systems teaching of the 3 days. So I'm going to bring this clip in. Sign. Jonah, the only one sign you get is that he was supposed to be in the grave for 3 whole days and 3 whole nights. Let's count. That's 3 days and 3 nights. So I count Wednesday night, Thursday night, and Friday night. That's 3 nights. Let's count the days. He was there all day Thursday, all day Friday, and all day Saturday. Now, I think we should go over it again. How many days is he supposed to be there? 3 days. We count all day Thursday, all day Friday, all day Saturday. How many nights is he supposed to be there? 3 nights. He was there all night Wednesday, all night Thursday,
and all night Friday. That's 3 nights. Now, that's the Hebrew perspective. We just counted 3 days and 3 nights. The only one sign, Jonah, the only one sign you get is that he was supposed to be in the grave for 3 whole days and 3 whole nights. Now, let's look at the Christian perspective. Buried on Friday, all day, all night Friday. He was there all day Saturday. He was there all day Saturday night. He was there Sunday, and he rose on Sunday morning. So that I counted 2 days and 2 nights. So let's do this. He was there. Let's count the days. All day Saturday and Sunday morning. That's 2 days. Let's count the nights. Friday night, Saturday night. That's 2. So I only counting 2 days and 2 nights on the Christian perspective. But let's go a little bit farther here. So what if we do this? All day Friday, all day Saturday, all day Sunday. That's 3 days. If he was there all day, the whole day, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. That's the morning hours. Now let's count the nights. Friday night and Saturday night. That still would give us only 3 days and 2 nights, and we would still be short 1 night.
So that is what I did 2 years ago, and that still stands for us today. We have to take the time out and search the scriptures for ourselves. We cannot leave our salvation, our journey, only to the teachers. You are supposed to search the scriptures for yourself because you are supposed to be a student of the Bible. So I'm hoping that you will find the time and share this video with a loved one, someone you think needs to hear this information. We have to reach out to the people. We have to be a tool to them and pray that Jehovah will open their eyes. So I don't see any questions or any comments on today. I really appreciate all of you that had joined in on today. May Jehovah bless you and keep you. May Jehovah shine his face towards you and give you his favor. May he shine his face on you and give you his peace. In the mighty name of Yeshua, I pray. Thank you once again, and I will see you on Tuesday at 7 o'clock p.m. for Torah studies. Thank you.